I have to look over my one assignment thing. It's a thing that I have to. Wait, I have to turn my microphone off.
Hey, Addie.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. What can I answer for you?
Well, I have some questions about my self-portrait.
Sure.
I'm thinking about redoing it, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I would like to get your feedback first, like the graded feedback
Yeah.
first, and then I'm going to try to redo it.
Okay. I will. So we're going to look at them and critique them today, and then I'm going to do graded feedback today, and so I'll get some done tonight and some done, the rest done probably tomorrow evening.
Okay, sounds great. And then
Go ahead.
my other question is, I'm going to be doing some paper cuttings for, I have them here, for my next, probably my next breadth piece.
Okay.
How do you think would be the best way to present them? Should I put them on black paper or do a background for them, like a watercolor background?
I think that you can do either one of those. What you want to be careful with if you do the watercolor background is the watercolor going to take away from kind of the paper cut itself standing out?
Yes.
So what you could experiment with is, because you have all of those backgrounds from other experiments, is make a couple of your paper cuts and just lay them on top of different backgrounds and kind of feel out if you feel like the paper cut itself is getting lost in the background or if that's actually helping it. And if you're not sure, you can even just lay it on a couple and snap some photos and send them to me. But there's not like a right or wrong way to do it. So some of it is once you see it, as well as what the overall reason is behind either just putting it on a solid background or behind putting it on top of a watercolor background. What type of like subject matter were you thinking about doing with the paper cutting?
Well, I can show them to you. I have some of them here. They're probably not my originals, but I have some black paper, and if you'd like, I can hold them up.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Let's see.
I can't see. Okay, you're switching. I can't see you right now. There we go.
So that one, kind of. Oh, no, there we go.
Oops, there it is. Okay.
So there's one of them. Here is another. Well, I just dropped it. Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have some that are rather tiny and wacky looking.
Mhm.
And then I have this guy, which is kind of funny looking. And then I have a rounder one. And then those are just the ones that aren't in the envelope.
Okay. And are you thinking about combining some of these or just one? Yeah.
I was thinking about like a panel of them and maybe doing some sewing on top of them. Like,
Uh, yeah, so I would say if you're going to do some sewing on top of them, then probably stick with the black so that you're really picking up the stitching detail and the paper cut detail.
yes.
Um,
And I might make them larger because the lady in town who taught me how to do them, she's a bit of a character, and she's like, well, today we're going to be working on receipt paper. And I'm like, okay, because receipt paper is about that big, so all the paper cuttings are rather tiny.
right.
So
Well, that's okay.
I might do some larger ones, or I might just do like a whole layout of them.
Yeah, I mean, they could be really interesting in how you decide to place them together and the negative space that you create when you're putting them together in and of themselves. You could play with, because I know we had talked about like fabric design, you could look at different like quilting patterns, and even bring in like different colors of paper cuts and things like that.
Since you brought up sewing, I'm also planning on doing a tapestry type thing.
Okay.
So, do you have any ideas on that?
So tapestry, like weaving tapestry?
Like sewing, like embroidered tapestry.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Do you have an idea of, I mean, that I would say go smaller because embroidery is not a fast process at all. So that you could think about, do you want to have an actual like recognizable subject matter within your embroidery, or do you really want the embroidery to be about playing with texture and pattern, and that you could be putting different stitches up against one another and it could be totally about using the elements of art?
I was thinking about doing like a Patricia Polacco style figure, because her
Okay.
figure is really kind of like kind of sack dresses, but they're always wild, funky colors.
Mhm.
So I was thinking about doing something like that, and then maybe I'm not sure where I'm going to place the subject yet, but I'll have to think of something for the background.
Yeah. Yeah. What size are you thinking?
Small, probably about that big, maybe a little bigger.
Because you could also think about when you photograph it of like leaving it in the embroidery hoop and photographing it in that, because that, Mika, not right now, please. Because that will help. Hold on, let me talk to her. I don't know what you're saying. What do you want me to do? You have to be quiet. All right, sorry about that. So you could leave it in the embroidery hoop because that would also help tell the people looking at it pretty quickly that that it's sewn, and it kind of solves one of the problems of you having to figure out what to do with like the rest of the space.
Frame, yes. Like they're the landscapes, and they like come out of the hoop.
Yeah.
They're really amazing.
Yeah. So what's making you think that you might want to like totally start over on your self-portrait?
Well, I like it, but it seems like it's kind of empty, I guess.
I don't think you need to, hold on, let me pull up because I actually have a bunch of, I don't think you need to start over. I think it's just not 100% finished.
Yes, I agree.
Let me root through all of my screens. Hold on.
I was also I wasn't sure if I was supposed to do it in the style of the artist or more in the in a like kind of a interpretation of the artist. So I kind of went.
It was sort of up to you and how you wanted to approach it. So these are some examples. Can you see what I'm showing you?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Where there's still there is a lot of empty space, and even that in and of itself is a way that you're playing with the elements of art and with composition, because you're leaving a lot out. So this one is still, like, we like things in thirds, so this composition is still being split up into thirds, which is helpful, that it's running off the top of the page and running off the bottom of the page. As well as when it's this simple, line quality gets really, really important, and that's kind of what I was saying to you, and like, you're getting line quality, but it felt a little bit too controlled. Like, it felt like you wanted it to look not controlled, but it was really controlled, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so there, I don't think you need to start over. You just need to bring some new lines on top of the lines that you already have. This is kind of an interesting one because this other figure is really pretty much non-existent minus this line right here. So again, like a really, really empty space. You could also play with, so this one by Mary Cassatt, really simple, but has this one solid kind of grounding block of color. So it's still very simple, but you could play with bringing in one kind of block of color behind yourself to ground yourself a little bit. This one, the drawing itself is crazy simple. It's just overlapped a whole lot. And so here again, super, super simple, but it comes into, there's more of a variety in the line. And so that's what helps to make it interesting, even though it's really simplified, that there's a lot of energy and contrast within the line. Same like this one, so all kinds of like crazy fun lines going on.
Yeah.
And then this has the color behind it to ground it. So I'm going to come back to you. So that's where I don't think that you need to start over. I just think that you need to go a little bit farther. Like, you have a really solid foundation. I would just say you need to get a little bit looser in the lines that you've created along your body, and you can think about, if you wanted to, bringing in kind of like one color block behind you. But I wouldn't say, like, don't take what you have and scrap it, just build on top of what you have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Kaylee. Oh, Kaylee disappeared. Yeah, you're being really demanding. Up you go.
That's the dog that eats the carrots?
Yeah, yes, that's the dog that eats the carrots. And I normally am upstairs when I talk to you guys, and she doesn't come upstairs, so she normally doesn't bother me as much, but I don't know, she's been in rare form since I came home from work. And I can't quite figure out what she wants. Did you have snow at your house last night?
Yes. It snowed more today than it did last night.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We did not get snow today. I got warmer today. So once everybody pops on, or at least a few more, so Jessica's here, we are going to look at the self-portraits that came in and chat about them, and answer any questions anybody has, and off you all go. Yeah, I had a 2-hour delay this morning, which was always nice. It's what you guys miss by going to school online. You don't get any delays or snow days. All right, well, what I'm going to start to do, and I'll add on if the boys come on, so just to kind of guide their critique a little bit today, which I'll pop them over in the chat, I'm giving each one of you a specific question, and that's the question that you're going to be answering and responding to when you're talking about other people's work, just because sometimes right on the spot it's hard to think of something to say. So this is going to help guide the discussion. So I'm going to be kind of flipping back and forth and copying and pasting some things into the chat. All right. So this first question, Addie, this is yours. So let me put your name. So that one's for Addie. So whenever it's your turn looking at a piece of art, you're going to be responding to the question, has the artist done anything special with the use of the elements of art? So you're looking at them and seeing if you think they've done anything special. This next one is for, so Kaylee, this is going to be your question, topic of conversation. So Kaylee, you're going to be answering when it's your turn. What are some of the dominant shapes, expressive forms, color schemes, and textures? And do you feel they carry significance in the work? Let me see. This one is for Jessica. Oops. So Jessica, you are going to respond to, you're going to describe the quality of execution of the technique. So you're going to be thinking about the materials, what they used, and if you think that's working, and what you think is unique about the work. Let's see. Then Jared. So Jared and Parker, who just popped on, I'm giving you all questions to kind of guide the critique today. So when it's your turn, this is the specific kind of thing you're commenting on about the work. So Jared, yours is, does the work evoke any feelings? To what do you ascribe the feeling? So if you see a feeling, what do you think makes that feeling? Let's see. Parker, this one that's coming is for you. So Parker, your job is to think of how would you describe the painting if someone could not see it. And RJ, your comment for when you're in the talking about someone's piece is, what do you think is the most important part of this picture? So I'm going to go let my dog in because she's not behaving. You get inside. You need to be quiet. Oh, not really. Okay. So hopefully the dog will be quiet. She's been rather rowdy this afternoon. So we are going. Pika, come here. Pika, come get your carrot, and then you be quiet. We're going to look at everyone's portraits, and then as I was saying, when some of you were kind of popping on, so the questions that I just gave you, that's how you're going to respond to the work. So we're doing that just to kind of guide the conversation, and it makes it a little bit easier to comment when you have a focused comment. That doesn't mean that you're not allowed to say anything else about the work, but that's just to sort of help to guide your thoughts. And I'm going to switch my screen so that you're not looking at me and you're looking at the artwork. In just a second, you'll be looking at the artwork. Okay, so is everyone seeing artwork now?
Yeah.
Awesome. Except for that, because I just clicked a different button. Okay. So we're going to start with each person so you can tell us a little bit about it. So, Pika, you really need to stop. Okay, I'm going to move upstairs because the dog is he wants to participate in the critique with all of you. So if you can start, Addie, and tell us a little bit about why you chose kind of this whole idea for your self-portrait and what materials you used and what you like and don't like and all that good stuff?
So my artist was Egan Shelley, and he did a lot with just painting the face and hands of his subject. And I used charcoal and watercolor pencil in this.
Okay, and what made you choose those materials?
Well, I thought that the flow of watercolor could capture the shortness of his life, because he died at 28.
Okay.
And also charcoal, you can get some really nice lines and texture with it.
Cool. So, is there anyone that wants to volunteer to go first for Addie's, or are you going to make me pick?
Huh.
All right. Hello?
Oh, okay. Well, looking for what is the most important thing, right?
Yep, you got it.
Well, first of all, great job on this. I really like it. Um, and just regarding your question right now, I think it looks finished to me. And I think the most important element to it is the color. I've always thought that effect is really cool, where like there only like one thing is colored. So I think great job on it.
All right. And Kaylee, how about we hear from you too? And remember, I can't see you, so I'm kind of monitoring the chat. So, Jared and Parker, the mood, I believe that the painting evokes peacefulness and simplicity. This can best be seen in the sway of the hair. Yeah, it definitely does really have a calming, peaceful mood. Kaylee says some dominant shapes are the head. The texture that stands out is the smoothness of the watercolor. I like the simple lines of it. Cool. Whoops, go ahead. Okay, sorry, I thought someone was starting to talk. So Addie and I were talking, oh, here Parker's writing. I would describe this painting as simple and abstract. The flowing black lines suggest contour lines of the portrait. The eye contact of the portrait unites the viewers and the subject. Good. So Addie and I were chatting some before all of you popped on, and because she was thinking about totally starting over, which I recommended not to do. And we talked about just adding potentially a little bit more of variety in the line quality itself. Because when you're doing these really simple drawings, which are really beautiful, but then it's super important that you have some contrast and variety within the line quality itself. So she's going to play around with that some more, but I think she will get there, no problem.
Also, I really like the texture. I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And there is something kind of,
Okay.
do you think that the dress needs more lines? No, I don't think so. I mean, if you wanted to, you could do almost like you were doing another layer and imply like there was some movement in the dress. I don't think it has to have folds. That's something that you could bring in as a way of bringing in a few more lines and some more contrast into it, but I don't think it's necessarily essential to it. So this next one, we're just going to look at quickly. So this is one of Kaylee's that we looked at last week and recommended going into some more detail with the mountains. So I just wanted to kind of quickly hear from all of you from looking at it last week and this week. Are you feeling like it's finished? If so, yes. Or if not, what would you still like to see happen?
Just as like a general question.
Yeah, just a general question.
I really like it. I definitely see the difference between last week. I'd say it's a finished piece.
Okay. Kaylee, how are you feeling about it? Addie still wants a red bird to show up in it. Kaylee likes it better than before. Yeah, I think this is definitely stronger than before. So you have more contrast happening between the water and the mountains. All right, we're
It
gonna
does.
jump. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, okay.
All
All right,
right.
we're gonna jump back into oh, Jared and Parker are talking. So the piece looks finished. However, I believe that the artist could put a boat or small island at the bottom of the piece. This would balance the bottom and the top. Yes, that is definitely an option, or even just kind of like a boat, um, like peeking in at the bottom, so it wouldn't have to be a full boat, but that would be something to consider. All right, on to, let's see. So we have Parker, and what I'm going to do, because Parker sent a couple detailed images as well, is I'm going to show you the detailed images, and then we'll bounce back to this one and have the full conversation. So this is the full piece. And so this one, we see the reflection a lot better in the glasses. And I'm just trying to, yep, one more detail. Okay. So we're going to jump up to here. So if Parker, if you want to tell us a little bit about like overall composition and subject matter, what story are you telling us here, and some about the medium that you used, and then we will chat.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, this was a very complex piece to start. I did 2-point perspective, which is the same perspective system in my first breath piece. I was also inspired by Vladimir Kush in this piece, as you can see, the sereneness and calmness of the figure and of the simple light of the morning, or the morning upon the city. So it has a simple and tranquility in the format and the atmosphere. Also, I was looking more forward to doing more detail in this piece, so I also included detailed shots to show the complex shading systems and a layering I had to do, which took took hours to do it, and I almost couldn't submit this piece in time, but luckily I did so last night.
Yeah.
I also added 2 colors in this painting, the green to balance the orange. If you look closely in a detail shot, this is a whole surrealistic painting of my inside my mind as I draw a piece of a piece of paper of a 3D city. But in reality, in my reflection to my glasses, it is just a flat piece of paper, just to show the relationship between reality and the imaginary world that I'm thinking. So that's the summary of my artwork.
So what size is this?
The size is slightly smaller than 18 by 12, which is my concentration size.
Yeah.
I actually didn't want to have the same size. I thought the panoramic view would be more effective in showing the distance and
Yeah.
the grandness of this, spaciousness of the city.
See, our problem with you is going to be figuring out what we're submitting, because all of these details are so, like, I want them to be able to see all of this. This is going to drive me crazy. It's probably going to drive you crazy too, because these details are really, really wonderful. Well, we'll conquer that issue at some point. I mean, the whole finished piece is beautiful, but getting to see all of the little intricate details are really interesting. All right. A good problem to have, though. So, do you know how many hours this piece took you?
I only had, since I'm doing AP classes and I had a lot of work to do, I can only work on this during nighttime, which kind of helped me differentiate the lights and shades.
Oh,
So
yeah.
about probably a total of 8 hours. 8 to 6 hours because it took a lot of detail to put in and
Yeah.
plan.
All right, so let's talk about this piece. If anyone wants to get us started off, you can, or I will pick. Is Jessica still here, or did she disappear? She disappeared. All right. I'll give you a couple seconds to type, or you can just chime in and talk. All right, so Addie's telling us, I think that the line quality and shape is really good, but I think that the main art elements are the use of colors and shape. The color is carried through the piece, and it is rather unrealistic for a morning sunrise, and that is really cool. The shape is mostly square with the occasional wavy line that looks really interesting. Yes, there's a lot of repetition of shapes in all of the buildings. I love that this building looks a little bit kind of curvy and bendy with all of the reflections taking place. And there's a really interesting play in proportion as well, because Parker is bigger than the buildings themselves. So that's a fun way to go about kind of playing with different elements of art and principles of design, is kind of fitting yourself into this space. And then we have this little tiny figure down here, again playing with the whole idea of proportion. So Jared says, I believe that the painting evokes calmness and peacefulness. The morning sun lights up the busy city. Yeah, it definitely does have, even because the figure, we don't really see any people, so we have the figure here and this little figure, but other than that, the city kind of seems quiet and asleep, as well as it's an interesting perspective of the city, because normally we don't get to look down from above the city. We're not normally getting quite this kind of perspective. RJ says Parker is God in this world. Yeah, he does kind of look like that with his pen in his hand creating things.
Yeah, I like the whole idea of that, like the creator of this world, like I like that whole concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just go ahead and give my feedback. The most important element, I think, is definitely like the color quality. That adds something like really unique. And also, without like you in there, it would be like just an amazing cityscape. But with you in there, it just adds more to it and makes it the surreal piece that it is. And a great job on that, I think. I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Jarrett says, note the subject blends into the building. Yes, definitely. It is one of those things that the longer that you look at it, you see more and more things, and it does really make you start to think as to what is our actual reality. In fact, it's starting to hurt my head if I think too hard about the whole concept. And then there's something really intriguing to me about this little window right here, because it's like the only one in this building that almost feels like we can look through it, or like somebody's curtains are pulled back, but we can't actually see them. Kaylee said some dominant shapes are the shapes of the buildings, and the color gives it a morning mood. The texture of the buildings are very detailed and look great. Yeah, Addie asked what the medium was, and he said watercolor. Yeah, you're definitely with the details.
And like like you were saying, I really like the detail a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. So before we move on to another one, Parker, is there anything specific that you really were like unsure about or wanted some more people's opinions on?
Since this piece was actually the smaller size of a concentration piece, I was wondering how I could incorporate larger sizes in the future, and if there's any difficulties in larger sizes, I'd like to have some feedback on these issues. So the next piece, I would know the problems I would go against.
Well, that is a good question. I mean, larger pieces are, one, you either have to do less detail or they're just automatically going to take longer because it's more of a surface to cover. So some things, I don't ever think size is necessarily easier or harder. So some of it depends on the person and what they're more comfortable with. Some of it is also thinking about if you're going to go bigger, thinking about the size as really almost being part of your subject matter and part of your medium. So the size itself is going to somewhat dictate what kind of tools are you going to use. You might need to bump up to bigger paintbrushes, or maybe you're going to try and do a piece that isn't so incredibly detailed. So for the most part, all of the work that you do is very, very detailed, and every part of the paper is dealt with and addressed, and color and mark making is put on it. So maybe you flip to a piece and you really play with leaving negative space. So bigger doesn't have to be harder, but you need to think about how you're going to approach it, especially since that's not something you're used to. I think for you, the only challenge with the bigger is going to be how do you still create something that you really like, but that it doesn't take you like 48 hours.
Yes.
But that's also one of those things that is going to push your work. You might even think maybe you're going to bring more collage into that, because that might be able to go faster. And it's one of those things that I would encourage you to try bigger at least one time. But you might find out, like, you know what, like, I hate working really big. My work doesn't translate it to really well. And then that's okay. Then that's a way that maybe isn't a great avenue for you to push your breadth. I mean, there are some artists that work rather small forever, and that's fine. But I think it could be interesting to see where it takes you, because you're very comfortable with your medium and in the current size, that it might be fun to kind of go for it.
Okay, thank you.
And one other thing that I would tell you to think about when you go bigger, because I don't want you to think that I'm saying leave all of the detail. I think you're going to want to just bring in some detail on some things, not the whole thing. And so what could be really beneficial for you there, for example, if this was really giant, and so instead you made yourself super, super detailed, and maybe one or two of the buildings was detailed and the rest was kind of a pretty simple line drawing. In the bigger size, we could see more of these like beautiful reflections that you're doing. So that could also be interesting, that it would be easier to see some of the intricate work that you do.
Okay, that's
Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, Parker's going big.
More of an observation, but like great job on like your use of space. Like literally, like you use like all of the canvas. Like literally, like if you were to crop it, like something will be lost. Like it's just great job at like utilizing every piece of space. Good job, man.
Yeah, that's a good observation, that cropping this would really change it. Even when you look at the details, like this is a totally different piece. And this and of its, like, your details are actually like pieces within it of themselves.
Pieceception.
Yeah. All right, on to Mr. RJ. So tell us a little bit about your inspiration, how you ended up with creatures coming out of your head. And
well, okay, well, like for this assignment, we were supposed to look at some artists' work. I looked at artists that I enjoy. They're all like cartoonists and character designers. Matt Groening, Tim Burton, Luke Chu, all those. And I thought I'd do something. I saw they all had self-portraits, and I thought I'd do something similar to that in the sense that I'm drawing myself in my own style, like kind of the cartoony. And
Okay.
so the idea of it is that like I'm like a character designer and I always have characters in my head, so I thought I'd kind of show that in this piece.
Okay, fun. Um, so Addie's giving you an artist recommendation. So is there anything specific that you want to have commented on before we jump into people answering their questions?
Really all feedback is appreciated. Maybe the shading or something, whatever just comes to mind.
All
And
right.
Addie, I haven't heard of him, but I just like searched him, and he has some really nice work. I'm definitely gonna
All
look
right,
at
then
more of
we
his
are just
stuff. Thank
going
you.
to go for it and jump into, you can start answering the questions that I gave you all about RJ's piece. So Jared says, I believe that the painting evokes mystery and has surrealistic qualities. Yes, it definitely does. Whenever you have characters jumping out of your head, it does have some surrealistic qualities.
True.
So how did you decide what the color of your background was going to be, RJ?
Um, I just thought I looked at what colors I kind of planned it ahead of time, thinking that what I thought I'd do like a darkish red, and then I wouldn't use that color in any of the characters to make everything else pop out.
Okay. Okay, so Parker says, I found it interesting that you incorporated your cartoon talents in this piece, so the red background helps pop out the central portrait. Yeah, so it is kind of, which is always fun about self-portraits, to see what people actually end up doing and how they portray themselves, because it's totally your choice. So it is fun that you were working on giving us a reflection of what is actually in your mind a lot of the times, which is a fun way to go about approaching it. How did you decide what your expression was, like your facial expression was going to be?
I played around with that for a while, because I kind of did it with the mirror. I was thinking, I tried to copy what expression like I had when I was drawing, and just thought, I kind of thought, hey, how would I feel if I had a bunch of characters coming out of my head? And I think that's how I would feel.
You look a little bit scared. So Addie says, I think that the elements of art that are used in a special way include the color. The colors are very bright except for most of your countenance. I'm not sure what that's supposed to say. The other thing I would say is you're working on this. So I think it's a really great self-portrait
Thank you.
expression face, yeah. Is that part of what you need to think about is how can you really start to separate your breadth pieces from your concentration pieces, because this still is really similar to your concentration pieces. So a couple of things to keep thinking about. One is just switching up the medium or doing some mixed medium. So maybe some is drawn or some is painted and some is digital. So kind of mixing that back and forth. As well as really pushing how could the composition change. So for an example, what if the perspective of this was almost drawn like the viewer was up top and actually kind of looking down into your head? Or maybe we just see a little part of your face popping up out of the corner and your eyes are kind of looking up, and then we see all of these creatures coming out of your head. So I think a lot of it comes into how can you bring some different composition layouts and some different perspectives that we didn't see in your concentration and bring them into your breadth piece. Is that making sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna use all that, and I'm actually having a few maybe different mediums planned out. Maybe I'm gonna use watercolor pencil for the maybe a few upcoming piece.
Okay.
But for sure, I hear what you're saying.
Because you could even play with, I mean, the kind of like bonus of digital is you can do all these experiments without really destroying your original piece of work. So you could also play with doing things digitally and printing them out and then cutting sections out and recollaging things together, which might be a good way for you to play with some different compositions. If you wanted to do watercolor for the background but put digital work on top of it. So there's a whole lot that you can do with what you already have going on. I mean, even if you really quickly wanted to take this and give us a slightly different composition, just playing with a different format. So thinking about what would it look like when we were looking at Parker's and he has this really long horizontal format. How would this change if there was instead all of this negative space happening, and maybe there's like a creature over here that's fallen out of your head and that's like running off with something of yours.
Running off with my brain.
Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of funny. And that right there, just like with a little bit of a tweak, would give you a whole new composition layout.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Well, thank you everyone for the feedback. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're going to jump to Jessica, she's not on. So we'll still do some comments just so that she can still listen to that. I probably have it in the email, but I didn't read all the emails yet. So she did a portrait with kind of like a grid, and then this is all painted to create her self-portrait. So how about we start with Kaylee and then RJ if you guys want to respond to your questions based on Jessica's piece.
Okay.
I think Kaylee's typing, so the rest of you can be typing too, which maybe you are. I just obviously can't see if you're typing or not. All right, so Kaylee says the dominant shapes are the squares of the pixels. The colors contrast between the shades of blue and then the colors of the skin. The texture of the pixels gives it a really cool look. So yeah, doing the grid thing gives it a very different feel, makes it seem kind of digitized, but at the same time we know that it's painted. I believe that the painting evokes comical and enthusiastic feelings. Her sarcastic gaze evokes these emotions. It is kind of an interesting perspective because it looks like it would, if you were using your phone, it looks like it would be a selfie because it looks like her arms are kind of extended out like she would be holding her phone. So it's also kind of a fun play on the fact that it looks like it would be a selfie and it comes out really pixelated, so going back and forth between the idea of painting and digital imagery coming together. So I'm going to let you go for it, RJ.
Well, I like the thing that adds a lot of creativity to it, I think, is the kind of pixelated look. Like you said, it kind of plays with that it looks sort of like a selfie. One of the kind of art styles I really like is pixel art and kind of glitch art, that sort of influence. So I could definitely see it here. I would say that is probably one of the elements that makes this piece really unique. And also, great job on putting all the little blocks together to actually you could see almost impressionistic almost kind of reminds me of.
Yeah.
That's a good job.
Addie says, I think that the element of art that is used especially is the lack of lines. So the squares are very loose lines, but they are not what we would consider as lines in art. Yeah, that's a good point, Addie. So she used these blocks, but wasn't like super strict. It wasn't like she was taking a ruler up against the edge of each one. As well as it looks like, so as you move to the top, the grid fades, so you can't see it nearly as much up at the top as you can down at the bottom, which brings kind of an interesting perspective. The piece looks very interesting because it looks very similar to a cell phone photograph. The blocks create a steady rhythm throughout the work, and the triangles add contrast. Yeah, cool. All right, so on to Jared, I think is, yep, Jared's the last one. So we have a couple of details of Jared's piece as well, so I'm going to show you those details and then we'll hear from Jared about his piece. So this is the overall whole finished piece. Then these are some details.
Whoa.
And some more detail. All right, Jared, so you're up if you want to tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind your piece, the materials that you used, and we'll go from there.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Well, the artist I was inspired by was Caravaggio, because he did these black, very ominous black drops, and also he did these yellow lighting that creates a very dramatic and intense emotion to the painting. I incorporated to this drawing that the painting shows me about to lay my brush on the canvas, and I have a very serious gaze to create the intense connection between me and between the portrait and the viewers. And behind me was these visions of these monsters or these grotesque creatures that will be a part of my inspiration as I am painting. And this circle, this spherical movement emphasizes my my movement as I am painting. As a body, you can see that I have a palette, which is all these little color things. And when you move up, you see me painting, and also as you move upward, you see these monsters going in a linear fashion. And it was really exciting doing these individual monsters and creating these different creatures out of my imagination. So it was really a very fun opportunity to do this work.
Your imagination is a little bit scary. I love this guy right here. I think he's my favorite. Because he looks like, is there a close-up of him? No. Oh yeah, it looks like he has a mouth on his head. Does he have a mouth on his head, Jared?
He's upside down, the monster.
Okay. Well, because he kind of, I go back and forth on, like there's a part of him that looks like he's upside down and a part of him that looks like he's right side up. Which is very intriguing to me, and he's just kind of peeking back here, so he really pops out at me. So this is also kind of a fun nod to a lot of artists throughout art history, because you'll see a lot of artists that do self-portraits, or in paintings, they're showing themselves painting a painting. So that's kind of fun to see this showing up in this piece. And how big is this piece? Oh, and there's your hand. Is this the 18 by 12? Yeah, I just saw your hand pop in over here. Cool. All right, let's see what people have to say. So shape is the element of art that I think is used specially. There are so many different forms and faces, and they are all different sizes and forms. They overall look like a very sick version of a Victorian lady's hat. That was a compliment. You know what? That cracks me up, Addie. I don't know why, but somehow in one of my classes today, they were looking up like all the paintings of women wearing hats that were like made out of fruit, and this does have sort of that type of feel, which I did not see until you said that. Kaylee says the dominant shapes are all of the different faces, and the dark colors give it a scary mood. You did do a really good job as well of pulling the inspiration from your artists with the really, really dark darks that it kind of feels like the space could go on forever and ever, but we have no idea what is back there. And everything that in front of you, so the painter's palette looks pretty like normal everyday painter's palette, and then behind you, kind of cloaking you, we have all of these monsters. So we have Jared and RJ with monsters coming out of their heads today. So Parker said, I thought the brush was an interesting illusion in the painting. The brush appears to be painting the viewers. Yes, it does. So right up here. Do you guys see that? So this is his hand, and here's his brush coming out and reaching at us.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's another kind of interesting manipulation of space, because it looks like this is actually coming out at us, and it makes it seem like he's telling us he's painting, but we can't really see the canvas, so it's almost like he's about to paint on our faces. Addie says, wait, maybe your hat is not that creepy then. I would rather wear creatures instead of a fruit bowl or a dead bird. Dead bird, so sad. So Parker, this is Jared. When you were doing this, how did you kind of decide on the perspective that you were going to do? So what made you decide that basically your canvas was going to be right in front of you, but we weren't actually going to see it?
Well, I wanted to experiment with many different perspectives, and I thought this was a really interesting optical illusion. So I wanted to try different ways to composition and perspectives, so I kind of vary between breath pieces.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a very kind of crazy optical illusion. Cool. So do you have any specific questions or concerns? Are you and your brother both going big? Is that your next plan?
This is really cool.
Yes, we are trying to expand from what we have right now and go to other options, such as bigger sizes, different mediums, and different ways to experiment.
Cool. And this is for all of you, I was trying to find a video of her doing it, but I've yet to succeed. I don't remember the woman's name right now, but it doesn't matter because there were no examples, good examples anyway. Hold on, I'm going to come back so I can see you. So I was reading about an artist, and she really she does a lot of abstract work and experiment with mark making. But one of the things that she was doing, which sounded really fun and interesting to me, was she took a power drill and was putting her charcoal in the end of the drill, like it was the drill bit, and then actually drawing while the drill was on. So I made all these really wild, crazy marks. So some things to keep thinking about too are what other materials could you actually be using? One of my students was doing a giant painting, so he used a broom as his paintbrush for parts of it, which can obviously change things up a lot as well. So you'll see this week it's pretty open-ended on subject matter and media, material, and all that stuff. So you're focusing on playing with foreshortening, which is the reason I'm having you do that is it's going to kind of force all of you to play with some different types of perspective. I also put up some videos if you're not super comfortable with foreshortening that I think should be helpful for you. And then I put a little note that next week is going to be one of those weeks where we discuss jumping back and reworking any of your concentration pieces. So I just put that as a heads up, so that's sort of like floating around in your brain. And As I said before, you don't necessarily have to redo concentration pieces. That will just be kind of an option, and I will work to put some time in for you to be able to do that next week. And then just so all of you know, as you're working on whatever school, teacher, person you're working with for the final submission of your portfolio, the AP site is live and open now. That once you need the AP coordinator key code, and then you need the school code, and you can actually start to upload your things onto the site, which is kind of cool because you can start to look at and really see how the readers are going to see and experience your work digitally.
And just one kind of question, can we just like run over real quick again of the process of submission?
Well, so what you have to do is find a local school district. So I would just go, like, if you were going to go to public school, whatever public school, hold on, let me answer Addie's question really quickly. For shortening, can I do an animal for my piece? No. Yes, you can do an animal. It doesn't have to be a person. That's a great question. Most of the examples you're going to see have a person. That's just because that's most commonly what the examples are. It honestly, it can be an animal, it can be a person, it can be objects. It can actually, you can go really abstract with it if you want to, but just really, the goal is to get you to be thinking about perspective in another way. But wherever you want to take that, you can go for it. So back to the AP submission. So I would just go with whatever school you would go to if you went to school in person. And they either will already have an AP coordinator. If they don't, they have to get one. They don't have a choice. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's that way in Pennsylvania. I think it's that way everywhere. But and then they will give you a link to the website that it'll make you sign up. You'll create a username, and then it asks you for a school code and a teacher code. And so those are the things that I can't give to you, that they will have to give to you. And when you enter the school code and the teacher code, it'll take you to the website. And once you're on the site, it's pretty self-explanatory as to like uploading things. If you get on and you're super confused, you can let me know and we can chat and do it together. But it's pretty easy once you get on. So you upload your digital files. You will have a space where you write your concentration statement, a space where you write your commentary, and you'll be writing the sizes of the pieces and the medium that you use. And then the school, around probably a little bit before May 8th, which is when it's all due, they'll do the official digital submission, as well as you'll be working with them to physically mail in your 5 pieces, your 5 quality pieces. So I will be working with you to help you figure out what are going to be the best 5 pieces to mail in. I just can't do that for you because obviously we're all over the country. So they will receive special packaging and instructions that you'll have to take those 5 pieces there to them, get them packaged up and shipped out.
And will the pieces have to be the original work, or because say I have a lot of my stuff is digital, so would it be fun like I could go get it printed somewhere on some like special paper and then send that in?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. So I mean, you're kind of a bit of a special case because most digital work translates well to being viewed digitally. So a big part of the quality is really for, I mean, everybody does it, so you still are going to have to do it. But the big purpose of the quality is so that they can kind of really see your work in person. So especially if you're doing drawing and painting or mixed media or any of those things. So up close and personal, they can see the details, they can see the brush strokes, they can see the mark making that sometimes is a little bit lost on the computer screen. And even for digitally, so the printed pieces, they can get a better understanding of your colors and your mark making, because each one of us has, you know, depending on what kind of computer you have, how new your computer is, how you have your brightness and your contrast and color settings on your computer, we're not all necessarily looking at the same thing. So the goal of the quality pieces is to give them a little bit more information and guidance about what they're looking at on the computer.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Kaylee says, I was wondering if you got my email from my self-portrait. Huh. That is a good question, Kaylee. When did you send it, Kaylee? Yesterday. Let me...
Oh, and just while you're looking for that, I'll just put something in here. I did something last week. You saw it, but I don't think everyone saw it. That I did a video of the.
Oh yeah.
So I'll go ahead and put the link in. It's a time lapse of me doing that, where we chose the music and then did the piece. So.
Oh, you know what, Kaylee? I see it now. I'm going to share your portrait on my screen so we can see you. Thank you for asking. I don't know why I missed that one. All right. So, can everybody see Kaylee?
Oh, cool.
All right. Awesome. So, sorry, Kaylee. I did not mean to forget you. So if you want to tell us a little bit about your self-portrait, Kaylee, so your inspiration and how you went about doing this, and we will give you some feedback. And the rest of you, because I think Kaylee's typing, so if some of you, because I know, excuse me, we've been on here for almost an hour, so if you want to start typing your comments, you can do that too. All right, so Kaylee says, that's okay. I chose two artists, Da Vinci and Brian Castellas. I use color pencils on brown tinted paper. So, if you guys want to give Kaylee some feedback, Kaylee, I think this is one of your stronger pieces, actually. Whoops. Okay, we're good. So while other people are typing, Kaylee, is there any specific thing you were unsure about or question that you had about your piece?
Well, I really like it. I really like the whole look of it. It's really unique. Like it has kind of a very pastel color. I really like that. I think that's one thing that makes it unique. And also, like, great job at making it look realistic. I could totally picture it, seeing it at a museum somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So Kaylee says, should I make the shading of the face darker? Let me read this comment and then we'll pop back to that question. So Parker says, the piece is very interesting. The subject is slightly off-centered, which helps to balance the artwork. The flowing hair of the portrait makes the viewer's eye travel downward and upward. Yes, all very true. It's nice that it's off-centered, and your hair is really, really wonderfully detailed. Addie says the colors are what I think really stand out. I like the way the face is about the same color as the background, and I like how the blue draws the eye to the bottom of the page. Your expression is great as well. So let me pop up. Should I make the shading of the face darker? I'm kind of back and forth on that one, Kaylee, partly because I think the really lightness of it plays up this, there's a great innocence in it, kind of like childlike innocence quality to the piece that I think if you're not careful and do too much more darker shading on the face, it's going to lose that, as well as the face might become too much like the hair. So I think for right now, I'm going to say no, don't go darker. You also did a good job of having some light and darkness in the background. Jared says the painting evokes happiness and mysteries. It is very similar to the Mona Lisa. Yes, she does kind of look like she has a secret that she's keeping. Did you look in the mirror or did you look at a photo when you did this, Kaylee? Okay, you took a photo. Very cool. Good job. All right, so unless you have more questions, you are free to go. If you have more questions, I will hang out and answer them. I will be working on, my goal is to have the actual written and graded feedback back to you, excuse me, by tomorrow night or like Wednesday morning is my goal for that. And as usual, if you get stuck or have questions as you're working on your work this week, feel free to shoot me an email. I will say my schedule's a little bit crazy Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I will still be checking my email, but I might not respond quite as promptly as I usually do because I have a couple events going on. So I'm not ignoring you. My response might just be a little bit delayed.
All right, cool. And just one last question.
Sure.
I'm not sure if I totally understood the AP breath tracking chart.
Okay. So the goal of what that is just to help you see, are you using the same elements and principles all the time? So on the one side are the elements, and on the top are the principles. And so whenever you're working with elements of art, they're working, like the elements and principles are kind of married. They're always working together. Mm-hmm. So what your job is to do after you finish a breadth piece is to pull up that chart, and maybe you'll say you really focused on using color. So you really focused on using color as an element, and then you're going to look across the top, and did you use color as a way to create unity? Did you use color as a way to create emphasis? So wherever that falls in that box, you would put a check mark, and you're going to do that for as many boxes for each piece. And so the goal is for you to see that really by the end of your breath, you want to have check marks in almost all of those boxes. So it's a visual way to keep track of, oh, am I using color as focal point in every single piece, or how am I pushing myself in different directions? Does that make sense?
Okay, now I get it. I think I did it wrong. I was putting like the number of piece. I use like the element in, but now I get it.
You can do that too. I mean, that works too. Either way. If you send it to me, I'll let you know if you're like making sense or if you're off in Never Neverland. All right, you're welcome, Jared and Parker. Thank you for hanging out with us. Always fun to look at everyone's work. And I think this part of the portfolio is going to be really fun to see where you all go in different directions. So have a wonderful evening, and I will see you all next week.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye.
Have a great week.
You too.